The afternoon light streamed through the stained glass windows of the old manor house, casting jeweled patterns across the dance floor. It was my wedding day. I, Elena, stood in a quiet alcove off the main hall, taking a single deep breath. The scent of gardenias and polished wood filled the air. I could hear the murmur of 200 guests, the string quartet tuning up, the distant clink of glassware. It was perfect, utterly, meticulously perfect, just the way my mother-in-law, Vivian, had insisted it must be. I smoothed the silk of my gown, a simple, elegant design I'd fought for against Vivian's preference for ruffles and diamonds. My gaze drifted across the room to my new husband, Liam. His smile was genuine, if a little dazed by the whirlwind. He loved his mother, trusted her implicitly. He saw the sharp edges of her personality as strong opinions. I'd learned, over 2 years of engagement, to see them as strategic maneuvers. I was about to rejoin the crowd when a flicker of movement near the long linen-draped bar caught my eye. Vivian stood there, a vision in ice-blue Chanel, her silver blonde hair a flawless helmet. She was not just admiring the champagne tower, she was positioned strategically beside it, her back to the room, her body a shield. And then I saw it. A quick, practiced flick of her wrist, something small and white, like a crushed aspirin or a pellet, dropped from her clenched fist into a single, waiting champagne flute. She gave the glass a gentle swirl, the crystal catching the light. The motion was so smooth, so casual, it would have been invisible to anyone not looking directly for it. My blood turned to ice water. Every warning bell my own mother had ever chimed about Vivian. She's a social climber, Elena. You're an obstacle. He's her only son, her only asset, rang in my ears with deafening clarity. This wasn't just disapproval. This was an act. My mind, trained by a law degree and 3 years in corporate risk assessment, snapped into cold, clear focus. Panic was a luxury I couldn't afford. This was a problem to be solved, a threat to be neutralized. I watched as Vivian picked up the doctored glass and a second, clean one. She turned, her face a mask of maternal benevolence, and began weaving through the crowd toward me. The toast was imminent. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic counter-rhythm to the gentle quartet music. As she approached, I summoned every ounce of envy I possessed. I let a warm, slightly nervous smile touch my lips. "Vivian, it's all so beautiful. Thank you," I gushed, reaching out to take the glasses from her, as if to help. "Nonsense, darling," she purred, holding them just out of reach for a split second, her eyes scanning my face. "You look flushed. The excitement, I'm sure. Here, this will settle you." She extended the glass in her right hand, the one I'd seen her swirl, toward me. That was my confirmation. The right hand, the target glass. "Oh, you're an angel," I breathed, my hand closing around the stem of the other glass, the one in her left hand. I pretended to fumble slightly, a clumsy bride, and in that millisecond of accidental contact, I completed the switch. My fingers now held the safe glass. The tainted one remained in her right hand, which I then gently guided back toward her with my free hand, as if ensuring she had her own drink for the toast. The transfer was seamless, a graceful, chaotic ballet of a nervous bride. She didn't notice. Her attention was already shifting to the crowd, to the performance ahead. She smiled, a victorious gleam in her cold blue eyes, and raised her newly acquired glass. My glass, the one she'd prepared for me. Liam joined us, slipping his arm around my waist. "Ready for the toast, my love?" he whispered. I leaned into him, raising my own, clean flute high. "More than ready," I said, my voice clear and steady. I caught Vivian's eye over the rim of my crystal, and I smiled. It wasn't a bride's smile, it was a verdict. The best man tapped his fork against his glass, the crystalline ting, 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 rippling through the hall. The crowd hushed, turning expectantly toward the head table. All eyes were on Vivian. She was a society queen, and this was her coronation speech. "Dear friends, family," she began, her voice carrying the cultured, melodic tone of someone who'd taken voice lessons for such moments. "What a joy it is to see my Liam so happy." She paused, letting her gaze sweep over me with a look of such profound, fraudulent warmth it made my skin crawl. "And to welcome Elena into our family. We are so delighted to finally make her a permanent part of our lives." The subtext dripped like poison. Finally, as if my presence had been a temporary inconvenience now being mercifully resolved. Liam squeezed my hand, hearing only the surface words. Vivian raised her glass higher. The champagne, the very liquid she'd tampered with, shimmered in the light. "To the new Mr. and Mrs. Liam Thorne, may your life together be exactly what you deserve." It was a cold, ominous blessing. The guests, sensing a weird tension but attributing it to emotional mothers, murmured, "To the happy couple," and drank. I watched, my own glass poised at my lips but untouched, as Vivian brought the flute to her mouth and took a long, satisfied sip. The deed was done. In her mind, the problem was being dealt with. Her expression was one of serene triumph. For a moment, nothing happened. The speeches continued. Liam's father gave a rambling, heartfelt talk. My own mother, eyes narrowed at Vivian, gave a short, fierce speech about strength and truth. The party's energy resumed. Then, as the quartet began playing a waltz and Liam led me to the floor for our first dance, I saw it. A slight stumble in Vivian's perfect posture as she moved to join a group of her friends, a hand fluttering to her temple. She laughed it off, blaming the champagne. But 10 minutes later, as we cut the towering cake, her laughter was too loud, her words slightly slurred. Her friends exchanged concerned glances. "Is your mother all right?" I whispered to Liam as we posed for a photo, my face a picture of wifely concern. He glanced over. "She's just emotional, and she doesn't usually drink in the afternoon." But this wasn't drunkenness. This was a rapid chemical unspooling. By the time the bouquet toss was announced, Vivian was leaning heavily on her husband's arm. Her famous composure was fraying. Her eyes, usually so sharp, were glassy and unfocused. The real drama began not with a scream, but with a giggle. A high, ragged, utterly un-Vivian-like giggle that cut through the polite conversation. She'd wandered near the band and was now attempting to conduct them with a breadstick. "Mother!" Liam hissed, breaking away from me and striding toward her. The room's subtle attention shifted from the dancing to the spectacle at the edge of the dance floor. Vivian waved the breadstick. "Liam, my boy! Isn't it fabulous? She's gone, you know. Poof!" She made a fluttering motion with her fingers, then stumbled. Her husband caught her, his face beet red with humiliation. "What are you saying, Mother? What did you do?" Vivian, lost in her chemical confessional, just giggled again. "The little pill, darling, from Dr. Kruger. For nerves. She has such bad nerves. She needed to rest. On her wedding night. Can you imagine? But it's in my glass. I drank it. I drank my own medicine. Oh, it's so strong." In the shocking silence that followed Vivian's drugged confession, all eyes turned to me. I didn't weep. I didn't rage. I set my bouquet down carefully on a nearby table and walked, with the deliberate calm of a prosecutor approaching the bench, toward my now husband and his incapacitated mother. Liam's face was a mask of shattered disbelief. "Elena, what is she talking about?" I stopped before him, my voice low but carrying in the rapt quiet. "She put something in a glass of champagne meant for me, Liam. I saw her do it. At the bar, just before the toast. I switched the glasses when she handed them to me." His father, holding a now weeping Vivian upright, stared at me. "That's a monstrous accusation." "The evidence," I said, nodding toward Vivian, who was now mumbling about ruining everything, "seems to be testifying quite clearly." I turned to my bridesmaid, Chloe, a no-nonsense emergency room nurse. "Chloe, would you mind? She needs medical attention." Chloe sprang into action, guiding Vivian into a chair, checking her pulse, speaking to her in a firm, clinical tone. She looked up at me. "She's ingested a powerful benzodiazepine, Elena, likely Rohypnol or something similar. Based on her reaction time and symptoms, a high dose. She needs to go to the hospital." The word Rohypnol sent a new, uglier wave of murmurs through the crowd. This wasn't a sleeping pill. This was a date rape drug. Liam looked like he'd been physically struck. He sank into a chair beside his babbling mother. "Why?" he whispered, not to me, but to her. "Why would you do this?" Vivian, through her chemical haze, found a moment of shocking clarity. Her eyes locked on her son, filled with a desperate, twisted love. "To protect you," she slurred, her voice breaking. "From her. Her family has nothing. She'll drain you, control you. She'll take you from me. I just wanted her to be quiet, to let me fix things." The admission hung in the air, more damning than any confession coerced in a courtroom. It was all there. The narcissism, the possessiveness, the willingness to destroy me to maintain her dominion. I addressed the room, my wedding guests, my new family. "I am so sorry your day has ended this way. My only priority now is my husband's well-being and ensuring his mother gets the care she clearly needs." I turned to Liam's father. "Call an ambulance, please, and the police." "The police?" he spluttered. "Yes," I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. "There has been an attempted assault at a public event with 200 witnesses. There will be a police report, there will be a toxicology screen, and there will be consequences." I finally knelt before Liam, taking his cold hands in mine. The man I loved was grieving, in real time, the loss of the mother he thought he had. "I am so sorry," I said, meaning it. "This is not how our life was supposed to start." He looked at me, his eyes swimming with tears of betrayal and dawning horror. "You switched the glasses. You knew." "I suspected, and I protected myself. Would you have preferred I drank it?" I asked, the question gentle but firm. He shook his head, a sob catching in his throat. "No, God, no." The aftermath was a blur of flashing red and blue lights, of polite but stern police officers taking statements, of Vivian being loaded onto a gurney, still muttering about gold diggers. The wedding was over, but our marriage, forged in this fire, began. In the weeks that followed, the truth was unavoidable. Vivian was charged with attempted assault. The scandal was nuclear. Liam, with my steady support, entered a period of agonizing therapy and cut all financial and personal ties with his mother. His father, ashamed and horrified, stood by his son. We didn't have a honeymoon. We had a series of difficult conversations, a move to a new city, and the hard, quiet work of building a partnership based on the brutal truth, not society's fairy tale. A year later, a card arrived at our new home. It was from Vivian, mailed from the very exclusive, very quiet retreat where she now lived. It contained a single line, written in her still elegant script. "You were always stronger than I thought." I showed it to Liam. He read it, sighed, and tossed it into the fireplace. Then he pulled me close, resting his forehead against mine. "My only family," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "is right here." I went to my wedding ready to vow to love and cherish. I left it learning to protect and survive. And in the end, that proved to be the only foundation strong enough to build a real, lasting love upon. Vivian's attempt to erase me had instead etched my strength permanently into the story of her son's life. She had tried to give me a sleeping potion. She succeeded only in ensuring I, and everyone else, would never sleep on the truth again.